I know. When we think of doulas, we think of those hip squeezes, that massaging while our clients are in labor, like really that hands-on. And those techniques are really important to learn, but a good doula training goes beyond the techniques. For those of you that are unsure about the things that I was saying, let's get into it. These are some of the things that we think of when we think of doula techniques. This is me with one of my clients who had a really awesome birth. There's so many of these kind of like hands-on. This is the stuff that gets us really, really excited. That's a hip squeeze, one of the ideas there. But as doulas, we're actually in a really interesting spot is that, we're educating our clients, we're advocating with our clients, we're protecting our clients, but we are doing that all within the medical system, which means we do have to have a lot of competency around that. We have to understand like medical hierarchy and even just being in the space of the hospital or birth center or, in the case of home births. And for some of you, you might be working in fertility clinics because you're really drawn to the preconception part of doula care, or you'll be working in your clients' homes or in the NICU if you're interested in that postpartum time. Wherever it is, all of it requires you learning the system and environment you're going to be working within. Health and safety within that environment is really, really important. It's important that you understand about communication skills because we're really bridging that gap that is left within these systems for, within medicine as well as family systems. And so, you yourself have to have these really great communication skills, which is something that you can learn if you're like, ooh, I'm not a really great communicator. It's really hard for me to come up with words. Like that part's a skill you can learn, but you will need to learn that as part of your doula training. We also need to understand about ethics and boundaries. And when we talk about these things, it is not just, what we're doing for our clients, but it's also for us as practitioners. So boundaries and having kind of like scripts for understanding how to encourage what's for your client to deal with, what's for you to deal with. And there's so many things that boundaries can come up. It can come up with money. It can come up with time. It can come up with your contract. You calling in your backup, like clauses, like there's so many things. And so having that understanding is really, really critical. Also, emotional processing. We're continuously going into really high emotional environments. These are either people in labor, people trying to conceive, people who have just brought their baby home. These are really heightened states. So being able to stay really present and grounded in those environments and then having a place after to shake it all off. This is an important skill that you need to learn. Again, we want to teach you this so that you do have this longevity. This work is really, really incredible, but without these skills, most doulas burn out within a year. I'm almost 20 years in, and it is because I have these really, really amazing skills and these systems in place so that I can keep doing this awesome work. I personally am a birth doula. I do a little bit of postpartum support, and I'm trained as a fertility doula, but I don't do a lot of preconception work. It's interesting too to see the research on, becoming professionally competent and having these deep understandings. It takes time, and it takes learning a bit of information, processing it, integrating it, and then learning the next bit. I can't say enough about a longer training. It's just you can't learn all of these things because you also need to learn cultural humility. You need to understand the business basics. Oh my goodness, business is so important. And then this real world application of all this information, plus understanding that we're working within a system that is wildly oppressive to most people. And so you need to understand, is this medical racism that's happening? Is this fat phobia that's happening? Being able to identify anti-fat bias and stepping in protection of your client is a really important skill to have. But you have to first understand all of those concepts. So you can see that, yes, it is really, really fun doing this part. I love this part. But you have to learn beyond those techniques. Now, let's get to the question that people have that sits under all of this. So you're yeah. How long is the training? Yeah, what type of doula do I want to be? But the reality is, let's talk about money, sustainability. Can this actually work for you and your life? And that's a critical question. So that's where we're going to go next, and we will see you there.